the open source community in Bitcoin is kind of very active. So everybody is doing lots of ideas and it's popping up left and right. And the BTCPay server is kind of trying to connect with this idea. We love integrations. We don't want to do everything by ourselves. The thing where we are trying to get more adoption on it these days is the retail side. If you want to reach the retail, we cannot communicate with BTCPay server as a team. We cannot communicate directly to these people. Those people don't know Bitcoin. They don't know BTCPay server. They don't give a shit about the server. They don't know Linux. We can manage to reach those people that we call ambassadors that are well positioned to do these kind of things. We are trying to implement, and that is kind of difficult, but we eventually reach it. It's a BTCPay app. If you're an ambassador, you basically host the infrastructure for merchants, and merchants install the BTCPay app on their phone, and they connect to your infrastructure by just scanning a QR code. But basically, the idea is that the merchants keep the keys. All the channel connections, liquidity kind of stuff should be handled by the ambassador.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the easiest way to show your support and help the podcast grow, bringing great content to even more listeners like you. Plus, subscribing means you'll never miss an episode. And a big shout out to StampSeed for supporting the show. Their indestructible solution is perfect for protecting your Bitcoin seed phrase. Now, let's get to the reason you're here. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to Your Bitcoin Story, the podcast where we dive deep into the people, projects, and passions driving the Bitcoin revolution. I'm your host, Gigi, and today we have an absolute incredible guest joining us. His name synonymous with innovation in the Bitcoin space, a pioneer, a builder, and a relentless advocate for open source development, the one and only Nicholas Duryea. Nicholas has been shaping the Bitcoin ecosystem since 2014, contributing tools and technologies that have empowered countless developers and businesses worldwide. You probably know him as the co-founder and emperor of BTCPay server, the go-to open source payment processor for Bitcoin payments. But that's not all. Nicholas is also the creator of nBitcoin, a C# library that has made it easier than ever for developers to build Bitcoin applications. Today, we'll explore Nicholas's Bitcoin journey, the challenges of building in the Bitcoin space, and the philosophy behind the commitment to open source development. Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. As I told you just now off the record, I rock this BTCPay server hat in every single episode since last summer. And today we're also gearing it out with the t-shirt. And you have some nice branding hanging around your neck as well. So anyone listening to this podcast, go over to the YouTube video to check out Nicholas's brand representation. Perfect. So let's kick it off, Nicholas.
This one, I got it from one of our first users,
really?
Mike from CoinCard.
We know Mike. Mike was on the episode a few months ago. So he was the one that gifted you the BTC clock.
Yes.
Amazing. So Nicholas, as we always do, let's kick it off. Could you share with us your Bitcoin origin story? Where does it begin?
Probably be... when does it begin?
Long time ago.
So why I was receptive to Bitcoin came from before Bitcoin. A long time ago, I tried to make a startup. It was in home automation. We basically failed. So it has gone bankrupt. Not so much of debt, like maybe $1,000 of debt, but like it was going nowhere. So we stopped it. And after that, I was kind of blacklisted by banks. So even if I wanted to create a new business, this time as consulting, that was quite safe. Like all the bank was kind of rejecting me. So it's kind of made me receptive to the idea of fuck the bank. And then there was a MTGOX crash that happened that did lots of noise. And the thing I noticed was that on Bitcoin forum, the people that lost their money there were not really pissed off at Bitcoin. They were pissed off at MTGOX, but they were still like buying Bitcoin. So I was finding it a bit interesting. Why are they not? I mean, they are depressed by it, but why they are still believing into Bitcoin? So that's when I started digging about how Bitcoin works and like basically looking the source code and try to replicate it just to understand how it's going, how pieces fit together. And
Hmm.
yeah, little by little, and up to now, it has been only doing this, just deeper
Yeah.
and deeper.
No, amazing. And yeah, I guess your kind of entrance to discovering and looking more into Bitcoin was this whole debanking, deplatforming, which it's not unique in your case, Nicholas. There's a lot of people that have lost banking abilities for numerous and in most cases ridiculous options. And it just proves that Bitcoin is a monetary peer-to-peer money for everybody in the world, no matter where you live, what you do, what your political stances. And it's kind of, it would be a very pale world without Bitcoin in it, right? Like it would be very Orwellian global nation state.
Yeah.
So I guess you kind of, to me, how I discovered you was essentially with your very famous tweet that you did with BitPay, right? Essentially getting frustrated with them and saying you don't trust them anymore and you will make them obsolete. And how the times have changed, right? When they were essentially BitPay, to some listeners who are unfamiliar, since BitPay is nowhere really to be seen today. I don't know, are they existent? Are they not? But that's irrelevant. Back in the day, they were processing most of the Bitcoin payments. And maybe you could share a little bit about that story, kind of your frustration that you had with them, and why was it that you lost your trust in them, Nicholas?
So before that, they were kind of one of the biggest companies in the Bitcoin world, and they were kind of well liked actually. Like they had lots of customers pushing Bitcoin. Yeah,
Hmm.
people kind of respected them. Then yeah, during the blockchain war, I went to the all the history of this. We have a documentary made by
Yeah.
Parker on this, so I invite you to look. But basically, they tried to force change on Bitcoin, and they were kind of hiding it to their merchants, basically hiding the problem to the merchants, saying, well, you will be updated by automatically. There is nothing to worry about. But basically, what they were going to do was just to rug pull them into a different cryptocurrency. So it was very dishonest. And it's along the years, I was advising some people to use their API. I even like did some integration on that. And I was, when I saw that, it was okay. Even if Bitcoin is decentralized on the base layer, like if everybody is depending on third party provider because developing on top of Bitcoin is so difficult, then we have a big problem. And so I decided to make BTCP server and to replicate their API. So to migrate everybody that I try to convince to use BitPay, make them come to BTCP server. And at the time, like most of them were like kind of very open. I mean, most of them, people that believe into Bitcoin were just, just jumping to BTCP server. And from there, it was just like kind of back and forth between the users to iron out the experience and just continue until up to now, basically.
Yeah, no, and it's fantastic, like to see how far BTC Pay servers gone with essentially. I believe you didn't spend no money on marketing. Everything was just word of mouth, right? Like people helping out each other, supporting each other. And as one of the first customers which gifted you that amazing chain, Mike was talking about kind of the early days of working with BTC Pay server and how exciting it was. And it was kind of open source, which I want to get into a little bit with you, is the ethos of the space, right? Like everything should be open to collaborative. And then when we have institutions, may there be BTCPay, not BTCPay, BitPay, or other institutions, Fidelity, naming them, so many, and they're essentially like have their own walled garden with their own things, and they're not really sharing with anyone. It kind of it's an oxymoron. It goes against what this technology has been put out for.
Yeah, it's not only this, it's also a question of practical matter. Like if you are a company and
Hmm.
trying to spread into the space, it means that you will bump into a lot of regulation that try to basically limit how far you can go by regulation or like lots of different issues that you have, economic and regulations. And Bitcoin by itself allow us to disregard this if we want to. So by doing an open source project, we are not really limited to jurisdictions, which make it more easy to spread around the world than those companies, even if they have more money, even if they have more marketing, even if they have like people in suits. At the end of the day, like we can spread farther because like nobody need permission to use us. So it's also, I think, a question of practical matter to be open source on Bitcoin. It's just easier.
Of course, and not just that, one thing I would like to add is also kind of the profit incentive, right? Like when companies go into business, it's all about facilitating, making their shareholders happy and getting the profits up. And it's more of how much can we milk the money out of our customers than providing a product which is the best that we can provide, which essentially to me is the number one priority of a business. But most businesses don't do that.
Yeah, well, sometimes like chasing the profit can be as well in the interests of the customer. Basically, in an indirect way, the profit that you make is kind of a reflection if whether or not you are satisfying your customers. Of course, when there is a regulatory capture that prevent new entrant and competitions, then it gets distorted. But it's not really, I would say, it's not really the fault of the businessman, but more like the fault about the politician and regulatory capture. Like it's not that I don't even know if it's the fault of politicians. Sometimes they're just like surfing the wave of what people want, and for some people it's a good thing to do. I don't know. But
True.
yeah.
Like we're seeing it in real life right now with Trump essentially being sworn into office the last 24 hours with X going crazy. Why has the Bitcoin strategic reserve not been signed? Why has Ross not been released? There's been so many claims and promises, and of course at the big show of Bitcoin magazine in Nashville, where he was saying the things he's going to do on day one. Well, officially today is the day one of the time of recording of this episode, so let's see. But politicians are just going to say what they want just to get them votes. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Trump or if it's Trudeau or if it's anyone else. Essentially, Bitcoin is here to separate the money from the state. In the recent few months, especially with this whole strategic Bitcoin reserve, and maybe I would love to hear your opinions on it. People have kind of swayed from separating money of the state to, oh, it's amazing. Let the state, stack hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. It's going to pump up my bags. But that's kind of against the ethos what people in the space were kind of fighting for decades.
Yeah,
What's your take?
Yeah, I'm mitigated on this. Like on my side, I think that when states start putting their nose into this, it's never a good announcing good things. I'm kind of happy about Trump being elected because there is nothing worse than what we had anyway. But of course, it might
100%.
not be as good as we expect. But still, positive, a small positive development, I guess. But I don't know, like. I'm seeing it like this, like if they are pumping my bag now, basically they make it harder for me to buy in the future. So in a way, they pump the bag of me today, but they are like taking the money of me in the future in a way.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. I would rather be stacking sub $100,000 Bitcoin than be stacking at $1 million and beyond, which people are dreaming about this 1 million Bitcoin, which is inevitable. It's going to happen sometime, but I would rather it happens in a decade than in a couple of years.
Yeah,
so 100%.
Yeah, I don't see too much interest for states to do this. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But certainly on Trump, it doesn't seem to understand really like the appeal of it. I don't see it very near from that.
Clearly launching
kind
a
of
meme coin
stasis.
like a few days before going into office, clearly he doesn't get the point. I don't know, maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's the people around him in his cabinet, and David Sachs and co pushing him to do these things. But nonetheless, let's see. It's only the start. It's a 4-year period of Trump's halving cycle. Let's see what happens in it. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to dabble too much on politics and Trump. There's a lot more interesting stuff to discuss here. So going back to BTCPay server in the early days, essentially, as you mentioned, there's a fantastic documentary from Parker, which I will link in the show notes. So whoever listening can definitely go watch it after this. And actually, we'll be having Parker on the pod in a few weeks' time. So he's also going to come and share his part of how he saw BTCPay server evolving and the whole process of recording that. Fantastic. Probably one of my favorite Bitcoin documentaries, which I highly recommend to everyone. Seeing where you started in the early days, just yourself, and then, the other members joining in. How hard, you mentioned that people were very easily swayed to, jump ship on BTCPay server, but how has that evolved over the last few years? And especially now, a few months ago, you released BTCPay server 2.0, which kind of Maybe you can share a little bit more that it kind of, to me, it opened the flood doors to everyone, especially in e-commerce world, where, you know, you can plug into your WooCommerce and Wix websites, which so many e-commerce platforms are using today. How has that journey been in your eyes? Has it been gradually and then suddenly, or it's been like constantly jumping?
We don't really keep track of download and stuff like this, so it's hard to for me to say. The way I can see it is that BTCPay server since 2017 kind of evolved in a very organic way. No, there is no big plan about what to do in 5 years. You know, it's like, okay, we are today, there is those merchants, they want this, so I will develop this, and then they find this bug, then I will fix this bug, and basically you pile up little by little lots of features that are coming on. And of course, the market is not static. You know, there is new technology being developed, new need that are being asked. And basically, before 2.0, the point is that okay, now we need to kind of take all this knowledge that kind of evolve organically and like remake a new base from which we can build that is more clean. So that's most of the logic that will allow people to build on BTCP server is there. So the basic idea is that if you have a good idea, like if you want to integrate, let's say, cashew payments or like Monero payment, Monero is exactly already supported, but like, or even like credit card payments. I would say my point is that it's not us, the BTCP server team, that need to spend our time to do this. But so our time is better spent into making the base so people can build on it. And then people can just make their plugin and develop this and serve their own user for their own niche. So that's kind of the vision of it. And BTCP server 2.0 are very instrumental in that. And you will see, for example, in a few days, there will be an announcement of a plugin that has been made, and the other will come. And also, it's this is so. For example, in BTCP Server 1.0, like there was for example, Monero and Zcash integration in it, but like as BTCP Server, we don't give a shit about shitcoins. But we are always happy to provide as much freedom to our users as we can. It's not our thing. We ended up in a situation where people that want to maintain those altcoins, they make PR and ask us to review it, and we are not motivated to do that, and we don't understand really the code base, so we cannot really ensure that it's secure or not. And then they become frustrated because we don't really reply. So it's a situation where nobody's very happy. So that's why, like in 2.0, like we did the base. In 2.1, we remove lots of altcoin code from the core and move it into plugins, and then we give that to their own community, and then they do whatever they want with it. Like after it's out of our laps, and it's what matters.
Nice.
And we support them. Like if they come to us, ask questions, say, okay, we are trying to do this plugin, we are trying to do that, we don't know which kind of approach to do, we can help them, no problem with this. But just I don't want to touch the logic of altcoin or like Stripe integration or like whatever. It's not my
True.
my kind of things.
No, I totally agree. And I love the approach that you have. You kind of, you build out this foundation, and then you let the communities build the tower as tall as they want, as wide as they want, do whatever they want, put whatever features, whatever windows and stuff on it.
That's a WordPress model, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Which is essentially, as WordPress has shown, it's the best model to have, where you're kind of this foundation where everything gets built on top, instead of trying to make this perfect product to make everyone happy, where it's impossible, especially different people with different needs. And then at the end of the day, you're responsible for something goes wrong. You are the one to blame. But in your case, kind of, if something on a client's API, goes wrong, they were the ones that actually, set everything up. So it kind of de-risks you in a way, which is a good place to be.
It's a bit, for example, what lots of people say about WordPress is that, okay, it's insecure because, of course, if everybody can do a plugin, it's a plugin insecure, then it's insecure. And that's true. You need to make to kind of be careful about minimizing your risk. And Bitcoin is kind of good at that. Like you don't have to put your your hot wallet on the server if you are really scared. And if you have your hot wallet on the server, you can try de-risk it by just keeping a small reserve on it. So you can kind of deal with it. But even if it's risky, it's hard to see that WordPress is the most used piece of software on the internet. Almost, it's what provoke kind of big adoption, because after you have kind of ecosystem that is building, you have developers that start making plugin. You have people that start to make consultancy for maintaining the servers. Other people so come to the project, try to learn it as a profit incentive behind it, and I think that's how it grow. Like that's my belief.
Yeah, and just like Bitcoin itself, like it's a grassroots movement. It's not like you're this corporation telling people what to do. It's kind of, you release this code as Satoshi did, and then people are just building on top of it and integrating it in ways that they see it. And as you said, it's super hard to estimate what's going to be in 5 years on BTCPay server, just the same way as guessing where Bitcoin's going to be in 5 years. Like it's anyone's guess what's going to happen. Kind of, I like your approach, listening to the customers and customers and partners, and tweaking the little bugs, doing little implementations, and slowly building it out, and having a grand roadmap. As we know in the space, whenever there's a project with a big roadmap, that roadmap is very short-lived. So it's better to focus on day-to-day operations. But out of everything that's happened, and kind of, it's been how many years now? Like coming up to 8 years, right? Since you launched BTCPay server. I know there's been for sure hundreds of challenges you've had to encounter, but if you could pick one, what would you say was like one of the biggest challenges that you guys had on your journey so far?
Good question. Well, keeping it secure. I would say that's the biggest challenge, because like the code is kind of big, and like a small mistake can make people lose money. So it's kind of a challenge. We need to be very careful about that, but we are not omnipotent, so mistake can happen. So I try to make sure that people understand the risk. For example, they can have a hot wallet, but they can de-risk it by not having too much money on it. And yeah, being careful. But like at the end of the day, we're human and mistake happen. So I guess that's the biggest challenge, because there is lots of PR as well. It's very easily like one line slip, and like there is an issue. So yeah, maybe it's the biggest challenge, I would say.
True, and I would say it's one of the most crucial things, right? Because if people lose their access, or there's issues and they can't access their funds, especially a business, if it's holding like significant amounts, like it's a serious problem. It's not just like the website's down. It's like, where's the money gone? And like if that interacts with daily operations, like it halts everything, right? So that's a good point. Security is something that, but I think as with Bitcoin, right? Every implementation that gets added in, it takes, to me, it seems like it's taking longer and longer and longer. And especially now that we have these discussions with CTV and other implementations looking to be implemented, like it's just going to take much longer to implement, which I think is a good thing. Some people are saying, oh, we want it now. Like why can't we just do it? But like, we want to take things slow instead of going fast and breaking them, as we see in parallel crypto chains, where they're just like flocking right and rebooting stuff. And I think the more people that get involved, and especially now that we have big players such as the ETFs and the MicroStrategies of the world, how do you see like consensus being made? Because if we retract to, which we discussed in the beginning with the block size wars, kind of, it was a 2.5 year war, of like discussions back and forth, and then like consensus was made. How do you see us going forward as more and more of these big institutions join? How is consensus going to be done?
I think most of those big institutions don't really give a fuck about that. They are not really involved into this. I mean, it will be messy, and I'm not sure there is another way to make it non-messy. Any system or how can I say? Any system that we can think to not make it messy might be gamed, and that might have downside. So like, it's chaos. At the end, I hope that there will be some kind of agreements. On my side, I must say that concerning the covenants things, I'm not in a rush. There is already so much things to do on Bitcoin that are not done. There is lots of low-hanging fruit on my side to build on top of Bitcoin. I am busy on other things, so I didn't even take time to read all the proposal and all. If they agree, the developers that are really serious into doing their research on that, if they can come to a consensus and like make a soft fork, I'm all for it. I won't stop it or anything. Where what I really don't want is another war like what happened with the block size, where people are threatening or doing a split or shit like this. Like we don't have time to deal with this shit. Like
True.
it's nice to get covenants, but like if we don't have it, like perfectly fine. It's like okay, we will live on.
That's true. That's true. And yeah, like to retract to what you said, I liked your answer where you said like the big institutions, they don't give a fuck what's happening on the protocol basis. To be honest, most of them, well, not most of them, but like 99.999% of them don't even hold their keys, right? It's mostly like held on Coinbase. So if anything, Coinbase is going to be participating in the discussions, and Coinbase has a history of being on the wrong side on the big blockers back in 2017. I don't know if Armstrong has learned
I
his
think
lesson.
I think I will not say they learned their lesson, but like they have other fish to fry.
Yeah, true.
They have nothing to win into like taking position and like forcing a change in the protocol. There is nothing to win at this stage. So I don't think they will push it. I think there's maybe some people will try to provoke a split or like making lots of drama on that. I hope that most of the community are not too much. I don't think there is as much traction as there was when during the Segwit time. So I'm not too worried about that at this point.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. Hopefully, it's peaceful road forward. I agree. Also, Nicholas, there's no need for wars. There's so many things to take care of. So instead of fighting each other, let's just carry on collaborating. And BTCPay servers as a fantastic example of that. Essentially, how you foster the community engagement around Bitcoin. BTCPay server has been to me a tremendous example of how to do it right instead of trying to fight other people and keeping things enclosed. And maybe now we can go a little bit into the topic of open source generally as an ideology. Were you always up for open source even pre-Bitcoin, or this is something more since you kind of went down your orange rabbit hole that you kind of said, open source is the only way?
So I was kind of in open source before, but I was a .NET developer, and before .NET was really Microsoft centric, and there
Mm.
was not really Git at the time. So I was sharing code on a website that was called Codeplex, and I was making free open source software libraries and article on internet on this website that is called Code Project.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had this need to find something to do for free and explain it to others. It has always been like that. But it's really since Bitcoin that I learned how to properly collaborate with lots of different developer. Before it was mostly me and then taking time to explain what I did. But yeah,
Mm.
I was working alone. I kind of learned Git by starting to collaborate with Bitcoin. I thought like being at the beginning, being able to compile Bitcoin Core was kind of very high level for me. I didn't know how to do that. I was really a Microsoft guy. I didn't even know. I never used Linux basically before.
Wow.
Like I mean, in school, like we had courses on that, but for me, I really hated it. So like basically, I didn't even attend the course because I didn't like it. So it's kind of yeah, it kind of changed me a lot.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, I don't have a pretty much technical background myself, but like, even without any technical skills or anything, to me, like open source is the most important thing, and that's what I strive and tell everyone to focus on, because at the end of the day, as the saying goes, one head is smart, but two are always smarter. And if you can get people to plug in and build things together, you build so much greater and faster things than you could have done on your own. So open source sits close in my heart. But Now to shift a little bit the conversation.
One thing I want to
Yeah.
I want to come back when you say, oh, what is the main challenge in BTCP server? There is another
Yeah.
challenge actually.
Yeah.
The open source community in Bitcoin is kind of very active. So everybody is doing lots of ideas and it's popping up left and right. And the BTCP server is kind of trying to connect with this idea. We love integrations, we don't want to do everything by ourselves. Maybe I think one of the big challenges has been to follow up what everybody else is doing and how it can connect with us, so we can kind of have a kind of synergy between what we are doing and what they are doing.
That is a really good point. Yeah, because everyone in the Bitcoin space has a lot of ideas and keeps chucking them around, but keeping track of that must be getting harder, especially with the years as more and more people are joining the space and more great minds are kind of like dropping ideas. Do you have any ideas of how you're looking to kind of to resolve that challenge of like trying to keep track of what people are suggesting, or
You
that's an
can't.
open-ended
You
question? You
can't.
can't, right?
I think on my side, the thing that really this day excites me on Bitcoin, it's not really Bitcoin actually, it's cashew.
Hmm.
And I see that when I see a kind of community forming, Nostr is another example. When I see like a kind of community forming, people building on top of projects, it's what I'm getting interested. I'm not really interested into ideas by themselves. I'm really interested into people shipping and like developing a community on top of it. Because like ideas are cheap, execution is a hard matter, but on top of that, you need people to use your stuff. If nobody uses it, then it doesn't.
It's useless.
It's useless. Yeah. So on my side, I have enough on my plate for BTCP server. So what I'm looking is like, okay, what the community is excited about, what people are building on top of. And for me, for now, there is like major thing that is Nostr and Cashew for me.
A quick message from our awesome partners at StampSeed. Future you is dependent on you. Don't let them down. Future you is set for life with Bitcoin, but only if you back up your seed phrase properly. No napkins, no phone notes, just StampSeed. Fireproof, waterproof, life-proof. Use BTCstory for 15% off at stampseed.com. Future you just fist bumped you. Don't mess this up. And now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, no, you brought up two great points. We go into quite extensive discussions on Nostr, because I'm a big proponent of it, and a lot of people are like religiously married to X and they think there's nothing apart from X out there, and I really encourage, especially people in the space. Well, to be honest, if you're not a Bitcoiner, Nostr might not be your cup of tea. It's too Bitcoin focused at the moment, but I think it's incredible what people are building out, and Nostr is a protocol of just over 3 years, like how many things are being built out. And it's not just different clients of like sharing notes, but like Zapstream, Zapstore. Who knows where it's going to go over the next few years. And it feels like it's accelerating every few months. Like there's more and more stuff happening. So how you can't kind of grasp and keep up with all the suggestions for BTCPay server plugins. I have the same thing with Nostr. Like things are changing so fast that like I have like no way of tracking everything,
Yeah,
right?
it's not possible. One thing I noticed also that is very difficult lots of mistake I saw in Bitcoin is sometimes people try to be too smart. Like they try to invent like protocol, like a way of doing things that are too smart. And like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's not what is smart that works, it's that what people can understand.
Simple.
So I take an example of Nostr and Cashew. So Nostr, for example, lots of people will say, oh, how do you do spam control or stuff like this? Well, you don't, and then you figure out as you go. And at the end of the day, people, because they can understand the technology, there's some people that will be interested into this problem that can focus only on that, and they will be probably do a better job than somebody that is too smart and trying to find it by himself and trying to explain everything that is in his brain. Like, and Cashew is the same. I feel it's the same kind of protocol where it's simple enough for somebody that is not very well versed into cryptography or protocols to know how it works. And I think it's great. Really, I really love this kind of things because if it's too complicated, then people don't build on top of what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the analogy, KISS, keep it stupid simple. Like Steve Jobs had a great quote. He said, any idiot can create something complex, but only a genius can create something simple. And that resonated very closely because, for example, the iPhone, like my 3-year-old daughter, like, can, zoom up, here go. Like she knows she can control it fully without any explanation, but if it's like, I don't know, like if you remember the old school smartphones and like the Nokias and the HTCs, that was so complicated. There was a bunch of settings and going everywhere. And as a daily user, you would get lost in it. So yeah, the simplicity aspect, I fully agree.
You see it from the UX point of view, but the thing is that when you are developing as well a new protocol, what you want to attract is developers. And developers is the same concept. It's exactly the same concept. It's just like a layer of abstraction down where they are more maybe closest to the machine, but it's exactly the same thing. Like if they cannot understand it, then it just won't work. It's not different from a user that just use an app.
That's true.
If the developer can understand it, there is more chance as well that the layer above gets simple and and yeah, that gets impact as well on the user interface as well.
That's true. And you brought up a super important point. Well, essentially in your craft, right? Being a developer. Without developers, you can have the greatest idea, you can have the most money in the world that you want. But if you don't have someone to implement your idea and bring them out to reality, it's essentially you can't go anywhere. And kind of in your eyes, are we getting more and more Bitcoin developers in the space, or are like people that could be Bitcoin developers more leaning onto shitcoins? And especially like 5 years ago, for example, everybody was focusing on Ethereum, right? Because like there was so much money there and everybody was doing some type of programming there. Have you, since you are a developer and you're in that circle, have you seen a shift of people focusing more on focusing their craft on Bitcoin or not? Or is there like a big shortage?
It's very difficult to see to say at the industry wide. My side, I'm always laser focused on a BTCP server. Like it's what's difficult is that you need to find somebody interested in the project, somebody that has the skill, and somebody that can stick for the long term. And it's always difficult. I don't know. If there was more people in Bitcoin space, if it's more easier to find. I'm not sure. I don't really know. It takes time as well to onboard people to. I'm not sure. So there is quantity that matter, but also the quality and the how can I say, perseverance, like the ability
Perseverance.
to
Yeah, yeah.
stick around. And like for example, those lots of developers, for example, that go to Ethereum because there is lots of money. Some might be good, but they are not perseverant because they don't really believe too much into it. They are here for the money. If there is money, they are here. If the money
Yeah.
disappear, then they will go somewhere else. Or like if they have a better thing, then they will go away. They will leave the project. So it's the nice thing in Bitcoin is that maybe we have less developer. I will say probably because it's the building on top of Bitcoin. I must say it's harder than Ethereum, so it's definitely a big part of it. But it's we I think people that are coming here are more ideological, and when you have ideological people, they are more likely to stick around and like give their best for the project. So yeah.
That's true. Like as you mentioned, some people are in the space just to get some money, and usually those guys, may that be Ethereum or any other alternative chain, they're just there for the money. But people in the Bitcoin space, they're not. To be honest, they would make much less money being a Bitcoin developer because they're kind of building their own project, but they're here for building freedom tech, and you're kind of set their ideological reasons, which keeps you for a much longer time, because it's not like at some point you go, oh, we have enough freedom, I'm done, I'm gonna go retire, right? It's an ongoing battle, and in my opinion, it's a very different mindset. But I'm hopeful that we will have more people, and especially with Gen Zs growing up and learning their skills, kind of come in to help the freedom fighters keep on fighting, because it's gonna be a long battle. Just because we're seeing some like nation state adoption, that doesn't mean the fight's over. Like it's going to carry on well after you, Nicholas, and myself and people listening to this podcast will be gone. Like, so we're kind of, these are crucial times. And, zooming out, sometimes people are too focused on like the micro, like 1 minute candles. I like to tell people, like, zoom out, look at it, look at the picture as monthly candles, right? Or even yearly candles. We're like 16 years in, and what's already been built is fascinating, but there's so much more to get built. So like, this is a long-term game, and people sometimes, they think, well, kind of, what can we do next? I think at the end of the day, it's people getting together to build the better world that they want to see, because Bitcoin has no rules. We're building those rules and shaping things. To me, it's the most exciting thing in the world. Maybe not to everyone else, but like, I just love, what everybody's doing and contributing whichever way they can. If you're not a developer, like in my case, I'm doing this podcast to help and, educate people and get them to see the things try out. So, and a lot of people can do different ways. So yeah, it's just kind of putting in the action, and the rewards don't have to be monetary, but they're very fulfilling. Like, I'm sure you guys, like everybody in the BTCPay server team, loves what they're doing every day. It's like maybe everybody could have had a much higher paying job working for some commercial company, but you would be dead inside, right? Like, it's not about the money.
And speaking of this, on our side, we got kind of lucky on BTCP server side, because like everybody is working because we love the project and the ideology, but we got lucky as well to get a sponsor supporting us. So it's like we got what do you call that? We get
what, a golden ticket.
Well, golden tickets, or in French we'll say it's difficult to translate, but yeah, it's we got all the good.
Okay.
The good parts,
sure.
yeah. Like of course, we will probably make way more money just working for a company. I don't know, like any Bitcoin company, really. That's for sure. But as an open source project, we have been really, really lucky with all those sponsors. And like the fact that we are keeping our treasury in Bitcoin and that Bitcoin pump, like as well, we got lucky on this.
Sure.
So it doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this another point. Like, as much as we love open source, it's also really hard to kind of keep the wheels turning, right? Like, not everyone's in the position of BTCPay server where they get the sponsors and kind of the grants and everything. And in the long term, Nicholas, in your eyes, how do you see like the next wave of like open source, development getting funded? Of course, OpenSats is doing continuous and HRM, but don't you think there could be another model how, open source projects could be funded in a not the seed funding, where it's all about, once again, what we said about profit and kind of what's coming in? Like, do you have any ideas of how that problem could be solved in the future? Or it's once again, it's
about
super hard.
Open source.
Yeah. And just like, not even funding, but like the whole monetization aspect of it, right? Because by open source, you're kind of, you're not trying to be a middleman rent seeker. You're kind of building this tech, giving it out.
Before BTCP server, the way I was able to make money basically is when I'm creating all of this open source software and people start using it, they start having a lot of questions. And some of them, sometimes they really want your time, and like you say, okay, man, I can't, like I have other things to do, and that's when they say, okay, like we're ready to pay, like tell me what do you want, and then you can fund yourself like this. So I think it's a good way to do that. It maybe don't work for all projects, but it's one way. There is also a risk for the open source funding, like what we have seen with all the grant and everything, is that is a project working until it's funded, or like even if the funding is pulled out, will it keep
going?
It will keep going and stay on its feet. And we need to be, I don't know what's a good answer to that, but like the grant people that give the grant need to be very especially careful about that. And in BTCPay server, actually, our contributors, we are very careful about that as well. Like our kind of process to fund somebody to work on BTCPay server is like, we see that somebody has been contributing in a how can I say, in a way that is continuous. Yeah, that is sure that he has some drive to do it. That
and
doesn't
commitment,
need
I guess.
Commitment. commitments. That's the term I was looking for. Kind of commitments. And when we see that it's useful and this person doesn't need lots of directions, because so if the person is too junior and need too much direction, then it's a drain on resources. So we
That's
cannot
true.
do that. We cannot encourage this. So that's when we contact this person. We say, oh, do you want, like, we just fund you just to help you to do this. Actually, we always encourage people that we found to say, oh, don't hesitate to find something elsewhere as well, because we don't really want as well to feel like a job in a way.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's also good because it allows the kind of how can I say, cross pollination.
Cross pollination.
Yeah, cross pollination. So imagine that a person like he get funded by BTCP server, but also work for another project. Let's say Noster or whatever. They will say, okay, now I know Noster, I know BTCP server. Okay, I can make a plugin. And like now it's like improving both aspects, and it's something he will not be able to do if he was only dedicated for us full time.
That's true.
So yeah, it's delicate balance, but yeah, it's what we are
It's
aiming
like
to.
it's like the total opposite 180 angle of like working in the legacy corporate world, where like you sign these like strict contracts that you can't be working for, you know, other projects in the same industry, this that. Here, like, you're kind of encouraged to go out and like whatever you're passionate about, you whatever interest you have, like go ahead and do it, which I think is much more natural than being this kind of like a horse, you know, when you have those things on your eyes and you can just look forward, you can't look left and right. And to be honest, that also encourages the longevity part, as you said, the commitment. Like, it's not like you are forced just to focus on this one thing, but you're free to do other things. And I think that's a very nice kind of philosophy and culture that you have within BTCPay server.
Yeah, the challenge as well with this is we need to allow people to do this, but when they get starting to get funded by BTCP server, they also need to be accountable to themselves. Like, imagine they say, okay, I want to develop this plugin. Okay, now you do it. When will it be done? How do we communicate about this? You need to reach the end of it. So it's a delicate balance to have, but I think that's definitely one of the reasons why BTCPay is what it is today.
Yeah, no, and you have a huge team, and unfortunately, I was planning to go to my first Baltic Honey Badger in Riga last August, but I had some last minute family things and I couldn't. And I was really keen. I was registered for the BTCPay server day. That was going to be my first one there, and I already met some of you guys in the BTC Prague, and I was really looking forward to it. And then I couldn't, and then afterwards, you know, kind of seeing all the video footage and the pictures, and like, you know, you're not a handful of devs. Like, it's a big team, and like, I wanted to ask you, like, how's it been growing in regards to contributors over the last few years? Like, has it been more or less steady, or you're getting more and more people joining up?
It has been quite steady. The BTCPay Foundation, like in total number of people that is funded, I guess we are around 9 or 10, something like this. It has been very stable. Like, all the members have been there for years, and that's part of the reason why, like, the project itself is steady. It's always improving, like, steadily, and we are not always keeping it alive. And we are not really searching to grow too much, because like when you grow too much, then you have other type of problem like communication issues, and that takes a lot of time as well. So we don't
security, which you mentioned.
Insecurity, that I mentioned. So that's why, like, rather than growing our team, I way prefer that we grow the number of people building on top of it that is not from our team. So this is the plugins. This is what we're doing right now. Like, what I was talking to you about. Like,
yeah,
we when, for example, there is some for example, if we don't maintain the Monero plugin, and then it's up to the Monero community to do it, then it will attract developers that say, okay, we don't have to ask the permission to BTCPay anymore. So I think that it will attract developers to start building on it, and it bring more developer on our platform in a way. So not only it save our time as well, but it grows the developer base, and it doesn't impose on us lots of communication issue, because those teams are kind of separate from us.
Yeah.
So it's all, I think that's the only way to scale, in a way, to scale the human components of the project.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. So I guess now kind of zooming out a little bit specifically on BTCPay server, but I wanted to hear your thoughts, Nicholas. Like, what are your current thoughts on the current state of Bitcoin adoption, particularly in like merchant adoption and businesses? Are you happy with how things are going, or could they be better, or they're doing really good?
So like on internet, like it's fine, for e-commerce, like we kind of, I would say, won the war.
You made it
We
super
need to,
easy. Few clicks.
yeah. I think people now just use us by default, and that's something we are really looking at. We are very proud of it. The thing where we are trying to get more adoption on it these days is the retail side. I'd like to go to a store and see paying in Bitcoin with on BTCPay server in real store and physical stores, and that's why we did some during when there is a Bitcoin events, we kind of coach people, or like sometimes do it by ourselves, like how to install BTCPay server and make it available for like merchant there. And the idea for scaling that we are attempting for, and I think that's the right idea, but there is lots of work to do still on this front, is that if you want to reach the retail, we cannot communicate with BTCP server as a team. We cannot communicate directly to these people. Those
Hmm.
people don't know Bitcoin. They don't know
Yeah.
BTCP server. They don't give a shit about the server. They don't know Linux. They don't know that. They don't. That's not
They just want
their
a
job.
POS and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's not their job. And like maintaining a physical store is really hard work. So there is no. It's normal. It's normal. They are not into it.
Hmm.
So the only way to reach them is if somebody like onboard them that
Yeah.
speak their language and that can answer the phone when they have issues and that have an address in their country and that can train them or like take their hands to understand how it works. And
Hmm.
so BTCP server, we can manage to reach those people that we call ambassadors that are well positioned to do these kind of things. And so that's what we are focusing these days, trying to make it easier for like ambassador to onboard retail merchants. And we try to find a monetary component to it. So giving them the ability to earn, I don't know, subscription or things like this by doing that.
Nice.
So that has been our kind of focus to develop this side of the market.
Yeah, you brought up the ambassador program, which I didn't even mention. I didn't even have it in my show notes, but I think you launched it just over a year ago, right? I think it was December 2023, right? That you launched the ambassador initiative. And how has it been spreading in these like 12 months since going? Like, do you have like
Not
ambassadors
as fast
essentially?
as I thought, not as fast as I want.
Okay.
So
Are they
we got
primarily focused?
we I
Sorry.
mean we made good progress. So
Hmm.
for example, when there is a
Conference.
Bitcoin events conference, like people start choosing us. We have like solid plugins that works well, so that's successful. But it stay like Bitcoin focus. It's not
Okay.
any conference that use that. And very often it's as well us, the BTCP team, that are behind, like holding the hand of people that are setting up that. So it's something I wished we were better at. And it's not only a technical problem, actually. It's also a marketing problem. Like, how do we present the right material to a person to do these kind of things? So we did case study that has been very useful, but I don't have good answer to that. We're still experimenting and looking for, but like what kind of documentation we should provide. Yeah, it's our thing. It's marketing, and I'm not a marketing guy, but yeah, I wish we will faster, and I was hoping to be faster on that.
Yeah, true. I mean, talking about Parker, he had another few months ago released a documentary about the BTCPay server at this year's Nashville event, and Uncle Rockstar spent a lot of hours in setting. You can see that for yourself. I'll link that on documentary as
Yeah,
well, so you can see kind of the acceptance of it. But like as you said, like this shouldn't be the BTCPay server's you know, like you guys have so many like development stuff to be working on, and then you're kind of fulfilling that role as well. And yeah, like I was hoping to hear a better answer from you in the sense that like there's an overwhelming amount of ambassadors, which I would think there would be, you know, because like a lot of
They
people
are. So Bitcoin ambassador, like in the sense of people onboarding,
is a lot.
spreading Bitcoin around the
Yeah.
world, there is a lot of ambassador.
Okay.
But I think as BTCPay, we should have done better to support them. Like
Okay, I see.
especially like giving them incentive by making it possible for them to make money out of the people. But it's a very difficult issue, not only on marketing side, but technical side as well to do that.
But I guess like from the monetizing aspect, as you said, they could monetize it through, may that be like monthly memberships for support, or like the initial cost of setting everything up. And you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not just like, oh, here's Android tablet, you're ready to go. Like there's still some training to do with the merchants and how to accept it. So, but like, are some ambassadors just doing it voluntarily, or is everyone trying to somehow monetize it from your experience? Or
I
a
don't
mix?
really know, but I think right now ambassador are more like volunteer.
Okay.
So yeah, I wish it was more. I I guess there is probably some of them that are commercial, but yeah, I think most of them are like doing it for ideological reason.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank
which is
God.
good, but yeah, I wish they could make money
Correct.
too.
Correct. Well, I guess also like if there's like some monetizing framework for these ambassadors, I guess they would be also incentivized to be putting in more work, right? Instead of just doing it as a hobby sometimes on the weekends here or there, you know. But then again, you can't provide them with everything, right? You're already giving them this super powerful tool. I guess, you know, it's not like a child where you need to show him everything. You kind of show the rules, and then it's down to them to kind of go and implement it. And different people can have different strategies for different parts of the world, right? You can't, there's a different way of implementing and teaching someone in Africa than it is to someone in LA, right? Like it's different world. So
Okay.
it's a culture part.
There is definitely a part where they need to apply local knowledge to their own situations and see how the tool can be used for their specific use case. That's definitely true. But even still, I think we should have done a better work to at least make the gap a bit smaller.
Yeah. Well, it's only been a year, Nicholas. Don't feel like you didn't do enough. You already have so many, as I like that term. You got bigger fish to fry on your plate than be doing like presentation models for them. I think with time it will come. And maybe someone listening to this episode who has ideas or who would be like to get involved with trying to bridge that gap between yourselves and ambassadors, feel free to reach out to Nicholas and the team. You know, like it's always, this is the beauty about open source and being an open project, that like anyone can just join in and contribute, as I said, in whatever ways they can. So you never know, maybe some listener will have a solution to help out and bridge that thing. We'll see.
Yeah.
Perfect, Nicholas.
So for example, I just want to talk quickly about the way we are thinking about giving business model to ambassador.
You don't have to do
One
it
is,
quickly. We have time. We're not short on
yeah,
time.
but like basically, like you mentioned, like a subscription, it's an idea, but we barely start working on that. Like it's on our roadmap. I say we don't have roadmap, but we have 6 months, 1 year,
Okay.
approximately what we want to do, but we don't really communicate on it because like it's kind of internal stuff. But the other thing that we are trying to implement, and that is kind of difficult, but we eventually reach it, is the BTCP app. If you heard about it a little bit.
I saw about that, but I didn't go too much into it. So maybe we could touch upon the app.
So the idea is that if you're ambassador, you basically host the infrastructure for merchants, and merchants install the BTCPay app on their phone, and they connect to your infrastructure by just scanning a QR code.
Wow.
And when they do
no
this,
need to set up nodes and wallets and everything. It can just you do
nothing.
all that custodying.
Yeah. So here is the thing: we don't want the ambassador to be custodian.
Okay.
So
they just have the infrastructure.
Yes. So the idea is that the merchants keep the custody of their funds. Like they only, I don't know if so it will be mainly on for Lightning Network. But basically, the idea is that the merchants keep the keys for paying on Lightning Network. All the channel connections, liquidity kind of stuff should be handled by the ambassador. And a way for them to make money is that because they are on the path of payments, they can act like an LSP for their merchants.
Yeah.
So it's an avenue of profit for them, plus the subscriptions. And the idea is that if the ambassador disappears, the merchant should be able to go to another ambassador, scan this QR code, and then recover their funds.
Okay,
so it's
nice.
very important that the reliability of the ambassador doesn't put the funds of the merchant at risk. And it's technically very difficult to do. And it's why making this BTCPay app is taking so much time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are on the way of doing this.
That's fantastic.
It's really I'm always we were talking about trying to keep things simple.
Yeah.
It's really here I feel like we are at the limit. We should not be trying to be too smart. We are at the limits.
True.
So
and it doesn't get simpler than scanning a QR code and bam, you're set up, right? Like it's talk about taking it really basic, which, as you said, like a good point, like these merchants, they don't care about how the protocol works. They're not going to be spending time to learn how to open a Lightning channel, how to close it. There should be this middle sector part and setting up a node and teaching them what do you even need a node for and everything. It's like so much education to get through before they're like, I just want to offer the payment. Like, stop wasting my time. I've got many other things to handle.
Yes, definitely.
Amazing. Well, I know, how do I say, no like timelines. This app probably will be out by the end of the year, right? Or maybe, or who knows?
Yes. I mean, that's our plan. I believe it's totally possible. I don't know, second half of 2025. Definitely possible. But we still have work to be done on this.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm super happy to hear that. And I hope listeners, listening who would like to become, ambassadors for BTCPay server, essentially your jobs are going to get much more streamlined and easier to get merchants to accept it. Because, making it easy to onboard is, I think, the most important thing, especially in Bitcoin. And, I think the adoption hasn't been seen as what we expected, is because for like non-technical or like what I like to call pre-coiners, to them telling them about like the Bitcoin protocol and everything, like it gets a little bit overwhelming. They're like, whoa, like so many things, and keeping my keys, and not even going into Lightning, but just talking about like on-chain layer one, like it's already like pretty complex. So making something easy, and I just said that the app would primarily be working on Lightning. To be honest, all payment merchants, they take Lightning anyways. Like it doesn't make sense to be doing on-chain unless you are, I don't know, a Rolex store or like a Mercedes dealership where you're like paying like different offers for like products for like 50,000 euros. Everybody does Lightning. You get instant settlement, and it's just more efficient. And we don't want to congest the main layer, right? With these micropayments. That's the whole point of layer twos. So it's going to be interesting. And my question, you were talking a lot about eCash. Is eCash also going to be implemented into this app, or it's only going to be
no, it's Lightning? It's not part of it.
Okay, so this is just going to focus on Lightning.
Yes. After I cannot say in the future, but like already to get only Lightning is like for
so
us,
much work.
So much work, so we cannot see further than this.
Sure. Amazing. I think, Nicholas, we covered a lot of the points from the origin story to how things were going to everything that's evolved since. Is there maybe something that we didn't cover, something that you'd like to bring up regarding your journey?
Nothing that passed by my mind right now.
All right. Well, we can always have you back in the future. And especially as things unravel, as the app comes out, maybe we can even get a joint one. I'm waiting for Rockstar Dev to get back to my DMs. We've been talking. I was waiting for a long time. I met him, which was a big also dream of mine, alongside with you, to meet him in Prague. And he said, yeah, I'd love to come on. But still trying to get through to him on X and Noster. But I'm hopeful. When the time is right, it's all about timing.
He's running.
He's always ready. We'll maybe have you guys on back on in the future as things unravel to hear some first exclusive updates. But Nicholas, thanks so much for taking the time. I know there's a lot of things going on your plate, and keep doing the amazing stuff and the freedom that you're building for all of us. Very thankful and fortunate. And where can we send our listeners who want to learn more about everything?
Like BTCP, so first, the documentary. The
That's where
documentary
you
of
start off.
Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the documentary of Parker, Trust in Me, Trust in You is Broken. My Trust in You is Broken. So very good documentary that explains the start of BTCP server. Then btcpserver.org. You can check. You will find links to videos or stuff like this if you are interested in. Setting it up is quite easy. If you're just interested to play with it, we also have like the demo servers that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really up to you what you want to do with it. But yeah, I think starting by the documentary and then the btcpserver.org website is a good place to start.
Amazing. And people that are interested in becoming future ambassadors, they can also find that on the main website, right?
Yes, and actually we have channels for ambassadors in our chat Mattermost. So right now there is not too much thing going on there, but it's
But when the app
we
comes out, it's going to get very busy, I think.
yes. So like if you would just want to, yeah, if you want, just come on the server, like connect there, and if you have anything to share, like we'll be glad to hear.
Amazing. Once again, Nicholas, thanks so much. Best of luck with everything. Wishing you and the whole BTCPay server team a successful start to 2025. And we look forward to seeing all the incredible developments that you guys keep on feeding us. Wishing you all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit too. Your support keeps us going, and we appreciate it. See you in the next one.